I want to talk to you about a book that I wrote some time ago. It's Dean John Burgon's Defense of the Authorized Version, the King James Bible. This is a small book that takes and from this book, the Revision Revised, written by John William Burgon back in the 1800s. It's well over 500 pages, and I've just tried to take it so that perhaps you would get interested in reading the 500 pages from this little book here. Some people, I have given this book to some, and later, weeks, months later, did you read it? No, it's too big. So I ceased doing that. I can't give you one of these, but you can buy these. You can buy them on Amazon, or you can go to Dr. Williams's website, theoldpathspublications.com, theoldpathspublications.com, and purchase it from them. Some people think or believe that this is not an issue today, that the King James Bible is out of date and all the new versions are okay, but that's not the truth. And John Burgon put it I believe, said it well back in his day when Westcott and Hort came up with this new critical text. And he said that, speaking of the UK, but it's now worldwide, at least in the Western world, and even in translation into other languages. He says that the country has been flooded with 2 editions of the new Greek text, and thus the door has been set wide open for universal mistrust of the truth of Scripture to enter. And that is so true. Let me just share with you a few things that I've taken and put into this book to hopefully get some people to buy Revision Revised. And this is one that has been printed by the Dean Burgon Society, and I think it's well worth, if you're interested in the Bible at all, and you say, some of these new versions, something's just not right here. If you'll read John Burgon's book, The Revision Revised. But anyway, let me share with you a couple of things that I have here. He talks about their English and their Greek texts, and he says that they have jerky sentences and so on. And he says that they contrast painfully with the happy turns of expression, the music of the cadences, the felicities of the rhythm of our authorized version. The transition from one to the other, as the Bishop of Lincoln remarks, is like exchanging a well-built carriage for a vehicle without springs, in which you get jolted to death on a newly mended and rarely traversed road. But the revised version is inaccurate as well, exhibits defective scholarship. I mean, in countless places. That's what he thought of the Revision Revised back in his day. I wonder what he would think of those today. He also believes about this new thing about it comes from Germany. And he says here in a footnote on page 50 of the Revision Revised, he says that to be improved, the Textus Receptus will have to be revised on entirely different principles from those which are just now in fashion. Men must begin by unlearning the German prejudices of the last 50 years. And those prejudices are still around. It all began over there in Germany, and Westcott and Hort took them and ran with them, and today most of the schools evangelical and many fundamentalist schools have taken the new translations and new versions and the critical text that was spawned by Westcott and Hort. And we need to get back to the authorized version. I'll just finish with this. He says this of our King James Bible, or he calls it the authorized version. It may be confidently assumed that no revision of our authorized version, however judiciously executed, will ever occupy the place in public esteem which is actually enjoyed by the work of the translators of 1611, the noblest literary work in the Anglo-Saxon language. We shall, in fact, never have another authorized version, and this single consideration may be thought absolutely fatal to the project, except in a greatly modified form. To be brief, as a companion in the study and for private edification, as a book of reference for critical purposes, especially in respect of difficult and controverted passages, we hold that a revised edition of the authorized version of our English Bible, if executed with consummate ability and learning, would at any time be a work of inestimable value. The method of such a performance, whether by marginal notes or in some other way, we forbear to determine. But certainly only as a handmaid is it to be desired. As something intended to supersede our present English Bible, we are thoroughly convinced that the project of a rival translation is not to be entertained for a moment. For ourselves, we deprecate it entirely. End of quote. I'd encourage you that if you're attending a church, or if you're a pastor or a preacher, and you're thinking of or are using one of these new versions, the English Standard Version seems to be the flavor of the month for many evangelicals and some fundamentalists, that you'd consider purchasing Dean John Burgon's defense of the authorized version. And perhaps that'll give you a taste of then purchasing the revision revised by John William Burgon.